The Resident Evil 4 remake is without a doubt a modern day masterpiece. Going into this game, I had high expectations for it, given the fact that this was my first entry into the franchise back in 2005. Couple that with the Resident Evil 2 remake being absolutely excellent, and well, the third one, yeah, let's just not talk about that. However, I'm pleased to say that this remake did an outstanding job in just about every department. From the moment you encounter a never-ending horde in the village, to the beautiful architecture in the castle, and finally ending off in the grimy island, Capcom delivered on the classic while expanding on the story and providing us with something new yet familiar. Diving deep into the main story, the Resident Evil 4 remake stays true to its core from the start all the way to the end, while giving us more lore to read along the way, as well as providing more in-game dialogue and areas that furthers our understanding of the events and the characters within the story itself. While the remake story is mostly the same, it does however change a few things around with how some events occur regarding certain characters, but it does it in a way that actually fits the tone and the direction that the remake is. The Resident Evil 4 remake story is by no means a one-to-one to the original story, but think of it as an addition to the previous installment. Not to mention all the little side quests which give you a reason to backtrack to the locations you've already visited, with some added bonus of some new rewards that you could take and trade with a merchant. But now let's talk about the tone for a second. Overall, I do like the whole atmosphere that the remake went for. I mean, they nailed the dark, scary, and serious tone that they were going for. It's like in 1 minute it's dark, narrow, and uncertain, and in the next you're surrounded by enemies from all directions and you're desperately trying to cut a path through without getting absolutely wrecked, especially by this guy. Yeah, fuck that guy. But one thing I really do appreciate that Capcom did was expand on each location and give us lore in the story, which gives us a much more rich experience to the characters, and it also allows the people returning and new to the franchise to have a much more deeper understanding of the Resident Evil 4 story from just a broader perspective, which I very much appreciate. From the gameplay point of view, it's a no-brainer this absolutely bulldozes the 2005 version. I mean, you could walk and shoot, you can parry, and there's a lot of little quality of life updates that just makes it feel more modern, more refined, and just more polished down to the T. But something worth noting is that on higher difficulties, the enemies are just absolutely ruthless. You can literally be fighting one or two dudes, and out of nowhere you get hit, and then get grabbed and pitchforked to death. While this may sound bad, I actually really appreciate it because it forces you to think about the combat situations that you're going into and what the best moves are to take in order to best avoid the situations that you're going to be encountering that the original really just didn't have very much of. So it really is this unique dynamic of a skills gap just integrated into the difficulties, which I very much appreciate. One small detail that is worth noting is the gore in the remake. You can literally blow off someone's arm and they can still charge at you, or you can literally blast off half of their body and you see the plaga tentacles just come out, and it's such a very small thing but highly appreciated for the time and effort that they actually put into it. One honorable mention I just have to make is this guy. Gloria a las plagas! Gloria a las plagas! This guy is an absolute rockstar and could not have been a much better addition to the remake. Every time he shows up, he just absolutely steals the show, and I have no idea why, but this dude is just absolutely awesome, and I like this enemy type that they introduced in the castle. Sorry to interrupt. It wouldn't be a remake without taking the original source material and taking that puppy to the butcher and chopping out some pieces, like Floyd Mayweather did chipping Jake Paul's tooth out. While the remake does deserve the praise it's well earned, it's worth pointing out that this is not a one-to-one remake of the original. And by far the most frustrating part that most people have brought up is the cut content. While I do agree that the U3 boss and many other areas within the castle and island have been cut from the game, I personally found it to be more enjoyable without it, and the fact that they actually reworked those areas into new areas and actually made up for it. However, one glaring issue is the fact that Separate Ways, which was originally a free add-on back in the PS2 era, is now going to be sold as part of a paid DLC in the near future. Now, while the overall game is incredible, there are some problems with it. The first one being Ada. I have no idea what they did or what was going through Capcom's head with this one, but they made her a complete mannequin in this one. They removed any kind of charm or personality about her from the original game and just made her a complete cardboard box in the remake. It was such a big missed opportunity that they could have expanded on, and they could have made her much more memorable in the remake, but they didn't decide to go down that path, which led to a lot of backlash, which is well warranted. The second problem being the personality of... The second problem being the overall atmosphere of the game. While I do praise it for being a much more darker and much more serious tone, it got to the point where it was just a little too much at times. There could have been a lot more witty banter and a little bit more charisma on Leon's part to kind of break up that atmosphere a little bit and just remind us that they're still humans at the end of the day, and they could still find places of comfort and places of... The second major problem I have with this game has to do with the overall atmosphere of it. Now, while I do give it huge praise for sticking to the dark and serious atmosphere that they absolutely nailed, there was a lot of times in the game where I felt that they could have at least broken up that atmosphere a lot of times with Leon and just had more witty banter and had a little bit more charm in it. Because there's a lot of times where you feel that, okay, like this is getting a little bit too serious, can we at least break it up a little bit? And while they did do that a lot with the scenes between Luis and Leon, which was great, when they're not together, it just felt like it was just always serious all the time. And there could have been more witty banter. There could have been a lot more charisma involved with Leon just to kind of break it up a little bit and to breathe some new fresh air into it, which was a really big missed opportunity that they could have nailed that the original game had a lot of, while providing something new for my teeth to gnaw on. It's Resident Evil 4 beat Resident Evil 4 in competition to beat the best Resident Evil 4. It's kind of like this paradox of itself, which is honestly kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But overall, I would highly recommend this game to anyone to try out, as I had an absolute ball slaying dudes left, right, and center. And I honestly have a lot of replays in this game because there's just something about it where there's this replayability and this fun aspect that I just keep getting every time I go back into the game. And with that being said, that is my review of Resident Evil 4. I think it's a great game. You should definitely try it out. And with that being said, take care and have an awesome day.